your family. So let's just dive into the family fight about the Jake Tapper, Biden, Democrats, blah, blah, blah. Can I just say quickly, I love Frank Conniff. He said Donald Trump told or reassured Jake Tapper that no matter how many $400 bribes he accepts and no matter how many folks he sends to foreign prison without habeas corpus, he will never fail to recognize George Clooney. I mean, but Jake Tapper's had to hire crisis management firm because people are hating so hard on this book. What is your take on all this? Because it's also like, let's redo the autopsy. It's the longest episode of Diagnosis Murder ever. About 2024, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think what we're going to come to is the same conclusion we've been in all along, that Trump got a pass by many who continue to treat him like a media spectacle instead of a political figure, who deserves the same kind of scrutiny that other political leaders receive. In fact, I would argue that he probably deserves enhanced scrutiny, given what his history has been, given what he's committed to openly, that the media kind of just treats as if, oh, isn't that cute? He'll never do that.
Yeah.
And yet here we are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is this one. Toby said, this is quoting Pete Buttigieg. He's clinically insane and utterly unqualified to hold the office of president. The same media that never stopped talking about Biden's age and physical decline never stopped questioning his cognitive ability. Man, they sure are quiet about Trump's utter insanity and complete unfitness for office of president. Even MSNBC covered Biden's decline more than they are Trump's, which is 100 times more apparent and obvious. I mean, I think this is what's happening, Carlos. People have eyes and ears. They see Trump asleep at the Pope's funeral and Biden walking around, acting like a former president should be acting. It's just, I think.
Well, and at the same time, what are we seeing? We're seeing media companies settling cases that they shouldn't be settling.
Yeah.
And
then he goes after them again. He goes after them again. Like, how do you learn? How do you not learn when you give the bully your lunch
this is
money?
What happens when you sell indulgences, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Immediately people go, oh, this ATM seems to be plugged in.
Yeah. One last one I say for you. Sean said, I am sick of the quote-unquote messaging problem diagnosis for Democrats. Vice President Harris was clear as a bell about her priorities and intentions. There was no messaging problem. There was racism and misogyny. That's it. I mean, there were a lot of factors. But
sure, I do think messaging was a problem and not her messaging. I think she needed longer to carry her messaging.
Right.
In order for it to penetrate. Look, a lot of people didn't turn out because they didn't feel that the economy was improving for them, even though there were lots of good economic indicators. And so Harris's message was right on point about that issue and connecting with people's fears and pointing out why certain things were happening.
And when you go back now,
corporations were price gouging people. That was a message that resonated very well with voters. They just needed to hear it more. They needed to hear it earlier in the campaign cycle.
Longer runway. I mean, and you go back now, Carl, and watch clips of Kamala Harris, and you're like, oh my God, she literally said and predicted all of this. And I mean, look at this crap budget they're doing. Of course, once again, none of the things Trump promised are in there, right?
No. I'm pretty sure I saw a right-wing troll on Twitter say that they're not going to tax tips anymore in this. Is that not in there?
No, it's not.
But certainly they're not going to tax Social Security income.
No, that's also not in there. I see what you're doing. You're engaging in the snark with me. It's a snark. It's a snark skit.
It's a snark off.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right. But
you need to enunciate better, Chris.
Yes, I know.
All the sleepy Joe Biden coverage when Trump sleeps through every trial, the Pope's funeral, what else? In Saudi Arabia, look at this guy. GOP rep sleeps through 5 a.m. tax package vote. That's the Republican Party today, right? The House Ways and Means Committee approved a Republican sweeping tax package. They shot down a string of attempts by Democrats to rewrite the plan. It's stocked with tax cuts, of course, for the rich, notable tax hikes on GOP targets like Ivy League colleges. So they're sending it on to the Budget Committee. That's Blake Moore, Republican of Utah, fell asleep and had to be awoken when it was time to vote. I mean, they're just a cult on autopilot.
And here I thought the phrase "asleep at the wheel" was a metaphor.
Right. Yeah, so the president has trumpeted the extension of his 2017 tax plan, attempting to make the bill more palatable to non-millionaires by claiming it would end, as you snarked, Carl, end a tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits. As it turns out, none of that is actually in the text of the bill. It became abundantly clear none of those promises would be happening. Tom Swazi, who I love, and also just the spelling of his name is fun.
Yeah.
He said on tips, the president said your tips will be 100% yours. Does this tax bill continue the payroll tax on people's tips? Yes, it does. Overtime. The president said your overtime will be tax-free. Does this bill continue the payroll tax on overtime? It does not exempt overtime from payroll tax. Does this bill remove taxes on Social Security benefits? It does not change Social Security. I mean, there is nothing he's ever promised.
There you go again, Stephanie.
Okay.
People thought this was in the last economic package that the administration pushed through, and it wasn't. And so it wasn't in this one. I think what we're beginning to see is that all these liberals are angry that Trump's going to be able to continue talking about these issues. If he doesn't actually follow through on them, he will always be able to say it's something he's going to do. So it's just liberals making hay out of nothing.
It goes on and on, right? National Weather Service decides it needs hurricane experts because, it's about to be hurricane season. I mean, look what's going on at the FAA, right? I mean, it's just, what did they say? There were like 3 air traffic controllers. Was this a couple days in Newark? There's supposed to be, I don't know, I forget the number, a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
Some National Weather Service forecasting teams are so critically understaffed, the agency is now offering to pay moving expenses for any staff willing to transfer to those. Oh, you have to go to Texas or Louisiana?
Yeah.
Ooh.
No.
That could soon face hurricane threats. I mean, it is just a running buffet of incompetence and chaos, right? And firing people, desperately trying to get them back, and blaming them and blaming Biden. I mean, it's insane, right? While we're watching this, I just, in the wake, I was in New York for 9/11, Carl. This thing we just watched in the Middle East is really, even for Trump, quite stunning, right? He's pounding around with Syria because, again, they gave him something. Yeah. Right? It was the head of Al-Qaeda, this guy he's palling around with.
And if people remember, like in the last time he was in office, there was like this pretense in front of a lot of it, right? Like, oh, they'd go through the hotel, and now it's just like, what do you need, sir? Do you need a 80-ton gold block? Sure.
Right.
We'll just say it's for the Treasury, and you can have it after you leave office.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say there is one silver lining, and I know the president doesn't like silver linings, but there is one silver lining.
Gold. I like gold leaf. Go ahead.
It implies that he's leaving office. And
yeah,
I think
that's the good news, right? Yes. All right, Carl, let's end with, since we're talking about Democrats, 2028, et cetera. I was saying what I love about Pritzker and Pete Buttigieg is they're not taking the bait on, Biden or Democrat bashing, I think. They're really like, and I think that's going to be so important in the midterms and going on. But anyway, we started asking the question about, do we think this country is more sexist or homophobic? J.K. said, if for those who say Pete Buttigieg should not run for president because this country would never elect a gay man, I'm old enough to remember when everyone thought Barack Obama would never win because he was a black man. Then he did win twice. If we as Democrats allow the Republicans to choose our candidate for us out of fear of potential insults or slurs, it will just reinforce the perception that our party is spineless. If Pete is brave enough to run, let's be brave enough to support him. I was one of those people. Early on in the primary, a lot of African Americans called the show and said, "You stupid, naive, liberal white lady, this country's never going to elect a black person." And I'm like, "You just wait." I mean, Barack Obama's the one. But that's the thing, Carl. I think after losing with a woman twice, we are scared, particularly with what's happening to the country under Trump. And so, I don't know your thoughts on. I mean, I never thought marriage equality would be legal in my lifetime, and here we are.
I think that we are consumed as a party with trying to grab people that are not grabbable, right? I think if a voter is the type of voter who will not vote for an LGBTQ person, they're probably not a voter who's up for grabs with Democrats, by and large. There may be some quibbling around policy and whatnot, but in terms of individuals, I honestly think that we have LGBTQ people elected all over this country at all levels in all kinds of different districts and states. blue, red, purple.
And I do think one of the factors is Kamala Harris was the victim of both the racism that Obama got and the sexism that Hillary got. All I know as a gay woman, I am literally last in line because we may have a gay man first, but go ahead.
Look, we're likely to elect the first gay man to the Senate, openly gay man to the Senate this election cycle. I think Secretary Pete probably has a pretty good shot at this.
Yeah.
And remember, like I said, we have a history of electing LGBTQ people, and I think for Kamala Harris, we always undercut how she was set up. I wouldn't say for failure, but how little structural support she had going into the election because of when she started.
I hope I hope the one lesson we do learn from 2024 is that we stick together when the time is. I guess I'll go to my grave thinking if we had rallied behind Joe Biden, we could have gotten him over the finish line, and then my dream would have been that he stepped down, and that's how Kamala, gets in and proved that she could be a great president. But I just hope we don't Goldilocks this to death, because we were like, Biden was too old; he should have gotten out. And then yesterday, even you, Bella, said AOC's too young. And
I know, yeah,
right. But this is what's going to happen. You're like, oh, well, now ageism is going to get her on the other side.
I actually think that we need a nominee who was born on April 22nd. 1969.
There you go.
I'm not sure who that is, but that's the date that I'm willing to accept.
Carl Frisch, problem solver.
Yes,
he's the head of the Problem Solvers Caucus.
Yes,
I'm sure there's a mook out there with that birthday.
All right, love you, Carl. See you next week. In America, personal religious beliefs should be just that, personal. But today, Christian nationalism is on the rise, threatening separation of church and state. Laws are being passed based on religious doctrine instead of reason, eroding our rights and freedoms in legislatures, public schools, even in courtrooms. One set of religious beliefs is being forced onto everyone else, but that's not what our founders intended. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back as the nation's leading group of free thinkers working to keep religion out of government. FFRF protects your right to think for yourself, whether you've always been secular, left religion behind, or simply believe in true religious freedom for everyone. If we don't stand up now, we may lose our religious freedoms. Join FFRF in defending our secular constitution and keeping faith a personal choice, not a government mandate. Visit ffrf.us/freedom to learn more, become a member, or text my last name Miller to 511-511, because in a truly free country, no one's faith should dictate everyone's future. Text Miller to 511-511 today.